question I'd like to ask Mr. Mohan, if it's possible, could you expand a little bit more on the linkages between monitoring data and policy?
Actually, this question is almost so important now, given the advent of satellite technology now. It's not an easy thing to actually bridge the gap between data and policy. See, with the existing network of EANET stations, given the number of stations that each the data is coming from, it does provide it does provide a channel, no doubt about it. But when the advent of satellite-based technology is coming in, what it does is that it gives EANET an opportunity to look at data at a much more wider scale. And where does this individual EANET station measurements come from? Is we can look at the calibration of those satellite-based measurements. See, when you do satellite-based measurement, anyone on the line will know that you need to calibrate that relationship needs to be calibrated between the digital unit and the actual remote sensing-based measurement that you're looking at. And these will actually differ based on advisory conditions. For example, in China and of course in Indonesia, for example. But with EANET having some stations already in these locations, okay, so this is the opportunity to actually use these satellite data, and these will be quite unique in this extent, is that because these are all very region specific. So when you have such amount of data, what happens now is that as opposed to just station data, it gives you much more room now to actually approach policy first. Secondly, is actually in monitoring whatever that is, monitoring the hazards that have been occurring. For example, if you want to monitor transboundary pollution or haze, okay, due to forest fires. So again, this technology now gives you an opportunity to now investigate all these phenomena right up to and at the ground level, what is happening actually. So that is one approach. Now another approach, which I should make, is how Madam Padu actually, she's from APCAP. So APCAP has done some good work with regard to actually looking at how to actually, mitigate the negative aspects of forest fire, transboundary haze due to forest fires in Thailand and, if I'm not mistaken, it's Thailand and Thailand and Vietnam. So whereby I think they have come with APCAP has come up with some very nice solutions. For example, they have on how to actually look at engagement with the local community, coming up with novel solutions. Whereby these novel solutions now are very local specific. That means if it's in Thailand, it may be different. If it's in Vietnam, it may be different. And you know how these residues, okay, the whole idea is because people are burning off these residues. So are there actually ways on how to actually, not burn these residues and use it for something else? And when they don't burn it, how is it that the farmer actually now can use this residue now as a as an income generating mechanism? So APCAP since have done some work there, and given that EANET has actually worked with EANET, with APCAP, he's in a working relationship with the APCAP. This allows actually EANET to explore. This is another possibility where there's a chance whereby this can be brought into policies.
At this stage, I would like to invite our commentators. Of course, you know them already, Mr. Tami Haryadi as well as Dr. Yamashita. If there's anything else that might be great to round out the discussion, we've covered things such as best practices, as to also ways in which opportunities exist for the current strengthening of the regional network itself, as well as new ways to think about, as we just were listening, ways to influence policy with real-time data and monitoring of that nature. So over to our commentators before we move towards our next stage of the program.
Yes, thank you, Courtney. I just make it very brief. So I derived it from all explanations of our panelists that in regards to best practices, what I can summarize from all panelists is actually two. First is the key activities on monitoring itself is the one thing that best practice of EANET that should be tailored and probably as lessons learned from for our future collaborations, because we have a very specific method that we introduce in monitoring of the data, and also institutional arrangement on how the data is collected. We have what we call it as a national monitoring plan. We have national centers in each countries, and also there is a mechanism of quality assurance and quality control for data collected. And also, based on what we receive from the data from the countries, we develop a periodic report. We call it as a periodic report on state of asset deposition in East Asia. So this report developed every 4 years, containing information as a trend of asset deposition. So probably this is a very good best practice that should be captured in with other initiatives as well. And then there's also a policy relevant section in this PRSAG document. So this is a very important best practices. So I heard some colleagues also mentioned about capacity building of EANET. I would like to highlight only one thing that I think very important and a good opportunity for us also to move forward is the EANET research fellowship program. So this is a very good opportunity. I don't see many initiatives think about this, where we can tailor research from national researchers in the country, and then they work in the network centers. My colleague, Dr. Yamashita, can elaborate more on this, on how the EANET research fellowship has been benefited all the researchers at the country level. Over to you.
All countries mentioned that the capacity building is very important. So in this midterm plan MTP, the capacity building one of the most important activities of EANET. So as one program in capacity building, the research fellowship is continued especially for the young researchers in participating countries to do their research activities supported by the ACAPS researchers. So, and also some countries mentioned the emission inventory. Emission inventory is the basic data to tackle with the air pollution and acid deposition. So, especially for one of the activities of emission inventory is capacity building activities. The next month, EANET has the emission inventory workshop, and this kind of activities will be continued as one of the important capacity building activities. And also, Tommy mentioned that the data, accurate and precise data monitoring and storage is very important. Also, as a network centered task. So we are developing, we are improving the easiness to provide such kind of the data to researchers or to countries who needs the data, monitoring data. As basic information of policy making in countries. So the MTP consists of the core activities for 5 years, including from this year. But the non-core activities or the previous year's additional activities are based on the annual activities. That's created by the opinion of the countries. So we, Secretariat Network Center, are very welcome to receive the opinion of countries. What kind of activities should do in EANET to reply to the needs of the current time. So some participants mentioned that co-benefit of air pollution and climate change, such as one aspect of the new activities, or to respond to the SDGs. That's also is necessary aspect of the EANET activities. So that's all. Thank you very much.
So wonderful round of applause to our special panel. Really appreciated learning from you and with you. And now we're going to segue to our closing session, actually.